Testing, testing. Are we on? Are we live? All right, let's go.
You know what's up, baby.
Hey. Hey, what it do? Had to play some slaps real quick to let everybody come in. But what it do, y'all? It is 7:49 Pacific Standard Time Wednesday night, and I realized I haven't done a coding video in a minute, so I said, "Hey, let me go live and do some free code camp." So we already did the basic HTML and HTML5 section. So we're going to get through as much as possible as I can with the basic CSS tonight. So we know when I start, it's only right that I got to get on my, got to get on the coding glasses. You feel me? So let's do this thing. All right, let me share my screen and we'll get going. And yeah, I got some food cooking in the background, so I'm gonna have to take a little break when that thing get ready. But let me share my screen. Let's see, I want to share this one right here. Actually, I want to do a tab. Let's do this one right here. Boom. All right. So here we go. So, like I said before, we had done the basic HTML and HTML5. Now we're going to do basic CSS. So, basic CSS. CSS or cascading style sheets tell the browser how to display the text and other content that you write in HTML. With CSS, you can control the color, font, size, spacing, and many other aspects of HTML elements. Now that you've described the structure of your cat photo app, give it some style with CSS. So yes, when we're doing CSS, this is basically what makes it look tight. It's the bling. So when you do HTML, that's like the skeleton. And then when you do CSS, that's what stylizes it up and gives it the color and gives it the pizzazz. So I like to look at this as like kind of like one of the parts of adult coloring. That's what I do with front end work. Is a lot of times when you do that, you're doing the design and how it looks to people. And this is one element of that. So yeah, this is like adult coloring for me. This is why I like, and again, you can make a good salary and get paid well just to do the front end. There's front end, which is what we're doing with the HTML and the CSS right now, and then JavaScript. There's back end, which is database stuff, which might not be as sexy to people. That's a little more query based and a little more hardcore STEM in a way. But if you just want to do front end and you don't want to do the back end, you can still make 6 figures just doing this. So let's bring this back up. All right, so let's go into the first one. Change the color of text. Now let's change some color of some text of some of our text. We can do this by changing the style of your H2 element. The property that is responsible for the color of an element's text is the color style property. Here's how you would set the H2 element's text color to blue. So remember, we have an H2 with the opening and closing tag, and they set this is called inline styling. Now we're going to get to actual external style sheets, I think, later in this, but this is just to learn right now. This is called inline styling, and that's because it's in line and inside of the tag. So style equals color blue. Then you have your inside text, cat photo app, and that. Note that it's good practice to end inline style declarations with a comma. So you see, right, or a semicolon. So you see the semicolon right there. Change your H2 element style so that its text color is red. All right. So it says here's the H2. We're just going to copy this. Again, as we say all the time, a lot of coding is going to be copy and pasting with little alterations. So we have blue, but we want this to be red. Out. You see that it's red right there. Let's make sure, as we said before, you always want to check the acceptance criteria. So your H2 element should have a style declaration. Boom. Your H2 element should have color set to red. Boom, as we see right there. And your style declaration should end with a semicolon. Semicolon. Let's run this test. Boom. We got that right there. All right, let's go to the next challenge. Use CSS selectors to style elements. With CSS, there are hundreds of CSS properties that you can use to change the way an element looks on your page. When you entered opening tag H2 style color red, blah, 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 you were styling that individual H2 element with inline CSS, which stands for cascading style sheets. That's one way to specify the style of an element, but there's a better way to apply CSS. At the top of your code, take this off right here. The top of your code, create a style block like this. Style, so opening, closing tag, style, style. Inside that style block, you can create a CSS selector for all H2 elements. For example, if you wanted all H2 elements to be red, you would add a style rule that looks like this. So opening tag style, H2, you have your bracket, closing bracket, color equals red, and then style. Note that it's important to have both opening and closing curly braces, boom and boom, around your element style rules. You also need to make sure that your element style definitions is between the opening and closing style tags. Finally, be sure to add a semicolon to the end of each of your element style rules. So, what does it want us to do? Delete your H2 element style attribute and instead create a CSS style block. Add the necessary CSS to turn all H2 elements blue. All right, so it said to delete this because we want to make this in our style tag. So that's going to go in the head of the HTML. Remember, there was head and there was body. So when I told you before, I said, we're doing inline, but there's better ways to do it. So I said we're going to get to external style sheets at some point, but right now it's going to the next level. So you can do inline, you can do in the head, or you can do an external style sheet. So this is step 2 of 3. So let's do that. So it said delete your elements H2 element style attribute, which we did, and instead create a CSS style block. So that's going to be, well, we don't have a head, so I guess it's going to want us just to put it at the top. Usually you'd have a head and a body. We don't have that here. I don't know if it wants us to specify that. So let's see, we'll figure that out. I'll just put the style right here. Boom. Okay, so that looks like that's all we have to do. And then your style attribute should be removed. So we did that. Create the style element, and then your H2 should be blue. So remember, we just copy and paste this. So we take this, just put this thing in there, and remember indentation. So inside your style element, there's here all these CSS selectors. Our first selector is this H2, opening curly brace, closing curly brace. Inside of that, we declare the properties of the CSS that we want to declare for all H2s. So what this means is in the actual program or in the actual app, every H2 you see is going to have these CSS styling properties. And it said we want to make it all blue. I do that right there. It says your H2 element should be blue. Now it's not blue right now. Your style sheet H2 declaration should be valid with the semicolon. We have that. And all your style elements should be valid and have closing tags. So yeah, we have that. Let's run this. I don't think it's going to pass. Your H2 element should be blue. So why is it doing that? Maybe it's because I have to do a head and a body. So let's try that. Hey, what up, Misha? How you doing? So let me put this head and body and see if that does it. But I don't know why they wouldn't have that already in there for us to make it simpler. I don't even think I have to necessarily even do that. Uh-oh, you're gonna have to see Trav do some live debugging. Let's see here. That's already set, but I think the way that they set this up, they didn't do this correctly, and that's why it's creating this confusion. Somebody had contacted me, I think, before about this to say if this was not right or not. So let's see here, because I definitely did that. I know what I'm doing. Style, H2, color, boom, 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 and then, but it's not turning it blue. Oh, that's why. Now, see, if you notice that, this is something that happens in coding all the time. Now, everything has pros and cons. This is one of the cons of coding that's going to piss you off at times. You will do everything as they said right, and you'll be like, why isn't this not working? Like, I just did everything right, but it's like still not working right. I went through all the steps. If you noticed, I had left one little mark in there. You see that? That ruins the whole code. So that's the part of this that you have to have. You have to pay attention to this tedious work, because there'll be times where you'll think you did everything right, but oh, you left a little comma right here, and you'll spend 30 minutes to an hour thinking you did everything right, and then you realize, oh, I just had to hit one backspace and it fixed the problem. So now watch. Boom, now we got it. But I'm glad that happened, because that's something that happens in coding a lot. You have to pay attention to little minute details like that. You might put a comma instead of a semicolon and think you did everything right, and you did, except that, and that messed your code up. So just keep that in mind. That is one thing with coding you're going to have to watch. But I'm glad that happened, because you saw live. I've developed my sense on how to see that. That might have taken somebody else a longer time. All right, so let's go to the next thing. Use a CSS class to style an element. So classes are reusable styles that can be added to HTML elements. Here's an example. So style, blue text, color, blue. So with styles, if you see right here, what this means, or with this class for the styles, a class means that you'll reuse this in different parts. It's not unique. So let's say you wanted to make an H2, and then the paragraphs both have color blue text. That's where you'll create this class, and then you'll add that class to both of these tags so you can reuse it. So instead of where it's like you do it inline and you do the same thing over again, you just set it one time and then copy that class code. So you can see that we've created a CSS class called blue text within the style tag. You can apply a class to an HTML element like this. So remember, I told you that H2 class equals blue text, cap photo H2. Note that in your CSS style element, class names start with a period. In your HTML elements class attribute, the class does not include the period. So that's just syntax. That's not anything where there's like a super rhyme or reason. As all it is just to make the difference. Well, let me take that back. That's just to set the difference in here, because with an H2, this is an actual element. So you're styling each element. If it's a class, you put a period in front to show that this is a class. Now, if it's something you're doing to a unique property, which is only one of one, you'll do a pound sign, and that'll probably come up soon. So what does this want us to do? It says inside your style element, change the H2 selector to red text. So it's going to be this. Red text. And update your color's value from blue to red. Red. Give your H2 element the class attribute with the value red text. So your H2 element should be red, your H2 element. So we don't have that. We have to set this. So I'll just copy that and change this to red text. Boom, red text right there. You can see it's working because we have cat photo app right there. And then give your H2 element the class attribute with the value. So let me go back. Your style sheet should declare a red text class and have its color set to red. So red text color set to red. You should not use inline styling. So we don't, because we changed that to a class. And let's run it. Boom, we good to go. On to the next. Sorry, I'm gonna be cheap. I ain't paying nothing right now. Sorry. All right, let me check this real quick. Yeah, I got some food cooking right now. So, but anyway, next, style multiple elements with a CSS class. Classes allow you to use the same CSS styles on multiple HTML elements. You can see this by applying your red text class to the first P element. So remember, I said that earlier. I said you could use your classes on multiple things. You use on a H2, then use it on a P. So it's actually telling us to do that on the P tag right now, the paragraph tag. So your H2 element should be red, which it is. And what this is called is a Wysiwyg Editor, which is what you see is what you get. That's the acronym for Wysiwyg. What you see is what you get. So we see right there that it's in there. It says your H2 element should have the class red text. Boom. Your first P element should be red, and your second and third should not. So that's where, see, you can make it different. So not all, if I would have made this just like P, everything in here would be red. So let's just do that real quick. This is why classes are good, because you could set one element to have the class and the rest to not. So if I were to do this, let me just copy this whole thing and set this to P. Now watch. See, all of the paragraph tags are red now, but we don't want that. That's why you do the classes. So then that way you can set it to where you set one P element with the class, and then that one P out of the three will be red. So let's take this out. And it says your first element should be red. So yeah, we'll just take this class equals red text, put it up in this how. See that? Now that first one is red. Second and third are not. Second, third are not. And your first P element should have that. Yeah, it should be good. And it's good. Boom. There it is right there. All right. Change the font of font size of an element. Font size is controlled by the font size CSS property like this. H1 font size 30 pixels. Boom. Inside the style tag that contains your red text class, create an entry for P elements and set the font size to 16 pixels. So we had done that before when I was trying to show you, or not trying to, when I did show you how you could set multiple or one P, depending on how you set the tags, the CSS selector and the style tag. So let's do that right now. So it wants all H1, or it says it wants all P's to have a font size of 16. So I'm gonna copy this. Ether. Change that to 16, 16. Now you see right there, it's there. So between the style tags, give the P element, font size of 16. Yeah, run. Ooh, good to go. Boom. All right. Next, set the font family of an element. You can set which font an element should use by using the font family property. For example, if you want to set your H2 elements font to sans serif, you would use it like this. So H2 font family sans serif. Make all your P elements have or use the monospace font. So boom, we're gonna copy this. See that P? Now remember, we end each with a semicolon. That means that that property set. Font family, but we want monospace. And you can see that it did that because in our editor, you see that it's changed the font text. So see how this P text is one font, but the rest is the default font. Hence the beauty of classes to where you can do the styling. So run the tests, boom. So that was some of the stuff that people would do for people on MySpace and set it so they'd have their different classes and all that. And then, you know, there's probably some code that's done even with Instagram and stuff like that when people have the custom text and all that, that it sets the classes and all that in the app. So that's how you can relate it to what you do like on social media. So import a Google font. In addition to specifying common fonts that are found on most operating systems, we can also specify non-standard custom web fonts for use on our website. There are many sources for web fonts on the internet. For this example, we will focus on the Google Fonts library. Google Fonts is a free library of web fonts that you could use in your CSS by referencing the font's URL. So let's go ahead and import and apply a Google font. Note that if Google is blocked in your country, you will need to skip this challenge. Well, we ain't in China, bruh, so you know we got Googs. To import a Google font, you can copy the font's URL from the Google Fonts library and then paste it in your HTML. For this challenge, we'll import the Lobster font. You do this, Copy the file snippet, code snippet, and paste it to the top of your code editor before the opening style element. So before this right here, we're going to put this. Boom. And then now you can use the lobster font in your CSS by using lobster as the family name in the following example. So font family. So we would put lobster instead of this family name. Now, what this generic name is option. Oh, it's actually telling us the generic name is optional and is a fallback font in case the other specified font is not available. This is covered in the next challenge. Font family names are case sensitive and need to be wrapped in quotes if there is a space in the name. For example, you need quotes to use the Open Sans font, but not the Lobster font. Pretty self-explanatory. So import the Lobster font, which we did, into your web page, then use an element selector to set lobster as the font family for your H2 element. So we will take this, copy it, use an element selector. Okay, so boom, H2 font family. Now it didn't have no spaces, so we don't need quotes. Lobster. Boom, and you see it done right there. See? Run the test. Ooh, boom. All right. Next. Specify how fonts should degrade. There are several default fonts that are available in all browsers. These generic font families include monospace, serif, and sans serif. When one font isn't available, you can tell the browser to degrade to another font. For example, if you want to use the Helvetica font but degrade to the sans serif font when Helvetica isn't available, you would specify it as follows. So P, font family, Helvetica sans serif. That's what we saw earlier. Generic font family names are not case sensitive. Also, they do not need quotes because they are CSS keywords. To begin, apply the monospace font to the H2 element so that it now has two fonts, Lobster and monospace. So we have monospace right there. So it said to begin, apply. Or let me just read this, then I'll go back to the acceptance criteria. In the last challenge, you imported the lobster font using the link tag. Now comment out that import of the lobster font using the HTML comment you learned before from the Google Fonts that isn't available anymore. Notice how your H2 elements degrade to the monospace font. Note, if you have the lobster font installed on your computer, you won't see the degradation because your browser is able to find the font. So your H2 element should use that lobster, which we have. Your H2 element should degrade to monospace when not available. So copy this. Put that there. You should comment out your call to Google for the lobster font by putting boom in front of it. It's talking about this. So we comment that out and then close your comment by adding that. The easy way to do that is you hit command and then /. So command and then the question mark button that has the slash under it, /. Or shift if you're on, or control or shift if you're on PC. But I'm on a Mac, and as they say, once you go Mac, you never go back. The test, boom, and I'm good to go. I'm gonna take a quick little break just to reset myself real quick, and then we will continue. So give me 1 second. We will be right back after these brief messages of Slap. I don't know why the music's not playing, but give me 1 second. All right, we're back. Quick little slap break. Yep, beat done by yours truly. Let me pop my collar on that. Let's get back to this. All right, so sizing your images. Actually, I have to take a quick break in 5 minutes again because I got some food cooking. But CSS has a property called width that controls your elements of width. Just like with fonts, we'll use px or pixels to specify the image's width. Excuse me, little burp right there. For example, if we wanted to create a CSS class called larger image that gave HTML elements a width of 500 pixels, we'd use opening tag, closing tag, or style, period, larger image class, opening curly brace with 500 pics, close. Create a class called smaller image and use it to resize the image so it's only 100 pixels wide. All right, so just copy this. And there's not really an order you have to put things in. As long as you put it in here, it'll show. I do like to make an order though, depending on usually just the hierarchy of the page. And again, when it's called a cascading style sheet, you can see my mouse in here. Cascading means it flows down, and whatever's the last thing is what it's going to do. So what I mean is, let's say we had 2 red text selectors, and the first one is, well, let's just do it right now. So see how we have this and it's red. Now, if I were to set this again, which I wouldn't want to do, but let's say I set it to blue, not blued, but blue. See how it's blue? But up here was red. Cascading style sheet, meaning whatever's the last thing that's set, that's what it's going to be. It goes by cascading down. So that's what that means. So we'll take that out and just take it with this and edit this whole real quick. So boom, I'm going to put a smaller image, make it 100. And then we have to apply this class. So we're going to put on the image tag right here, we're going to put class equals smaller image. So Let's put that before the source attribute. Yeah. Boom. And you see it worked. So let's go ahead and hit run tests. Bravo. All right. On to the next. Add borders around your elements. CSS borders have properties like style, color, and width. For example, if we wanted to create a red 5-pixel border around an HTML element, we could use this class. So style thin, red border, border color red, border width 5, border style solid. So create a class called thick green border, then apply this class with 10 pixels. This class should apply 10 pixels solid green border around HTML element and apply the class to your cat photo. Remember that you can apply multiple classes to an element using its class attribute by separating each class name with a space. For example, so that's how we use multiple classes on that. So your image class element should have the class smaller image, which we have. Your image element should have the class thick green border. Your image should have the border width of 10. Your image should have the border style of solid, and your image should have green around. All right, so let's do this. So let's create thick green border. Let's copy this thing. Boom. We have that. Your image should have this of text. Does it want me to put it on there? Let's see. See, there's more steps on this one. Let's copy all 3 of these, put it in, then edit it. So border width of 10, 10, solid, green. And then we're going to put thick green border right next to this. So boom, Aaron has said just do with a space. Boom, you see it right there. Let's run the test. Ooh, and it's done. All right. Add rounded corner borders with radius. Let me see how much we have left here. Still got a little bit of time. Up, you hear my food. Up, let me do a quick little break again. Let me play his music and I'll be right back. Yep, Trav got to eat too, you feel me? So let me go ahead and do that. Hey. All right. Let's continue. All right. So add rounded corners with the border radius. Your cat photo currently has sharp corners. We can round out those corners with the CSS property called border radius. You can specify a border radius with pixels. Give your cat photo a border radius of 10 pixels. Note, this challenge allows for multiple possible solutions. For example, you may add border radius to either the thick green border class or smaller image class. I'm going to do it to the thick green border class because if we're doing a border radius, why not just do it with the border class? So let's do as such. Border radius. And pixels. Boom, and you see it right there. You see how it's rounded like that? And that's how you do that styling. Let's run the tests. And we in the dough. Boom. On to the next. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, I'm gonna go for a little bit longer. And then I'll stop. We're at 43 minutes. All right. So make circular images with the border radius. In addition to pixels, you can also specify the border radius using a percentage. Give your cat photo a border radius of 50%. All right. So your image should have a border radius of 50%. Make it perfectly circular. And the border radius value should use a percentage. Okay. So we'll just put that. And just put 50%. 50. Boom. Ooh, and it's a circle, you see? So that's how they do the circle thing. Run a test, boom. And see, I learned something every day. This is basic stuff, but I haven't done a circle in a while, so I forgot. Now I do that. Oh, yeah, that's done by this border radius trick. So I'm still learning myself. You know what I mean? I've been coding for 5 years. All right. So give a background color to a div element. You can set an element's background color with the background color property. For example, if you want an element's background color to be green, you'd put this within your style element. Green background, boom. So create a class called silver background with the background color of silver and add this class to your div element. All right. That's good. Put this right here. Silver. Wish it was gold so I could say the thing from Austin Powers. I like gold. All right, so your div element should have that. So here's the div class equals silver background. Just type it. Boom, and you see it right there. So let's run the tests. Good to go. All right, quick little sip. Okay, so ooh, you hear that? My digesting kind of weird. I was making a little beat right there. I should have recorded that. I could use that in some. All right, so in addition to classes, each HTML element can also have an ID attribute. I brought this up before. This is that pound sign thing I was talking about. So there are several benefits to using ID attributes. You could use an ID to style a single element, and later you'll learn that you can use them to select and modify specific elements within JavaScript. ID attributes should be unique. So as classes can be reused for different things, an ID of an element that'll make it for that one element And then it'll have unique styling that'll only affect that one element. So we'll see. So browsers won't enforce this, but this is a widely agreed upon best practice. So please don't give more than one element the same ID attribute. Here's an example of how to give your H2 element the ID of cat photo app. So boom, give your form element the ID cat photo form. So we'll just take that. Where's the form? Now I could have put this behind action. I put this in front of action. For me, I like putting the ID before everything else, just because for me, it looks cleaner and it's more intuitive for me. But as long as you put it in there right, it's cool. So it said call this cat photo form. So form, the test, and we're good. All right, let's see how much left I got. We have, see, I'm reading this thing wrong. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. Okay, I'm gonna go till an hour and then stop. All right, use an attribute, ID attribute to style an element. One cool thing about ID attributes is that like classes, you can style them using CSS. However, an ID is not reusable and should only be applied to one element. An ID also has a higher specificity at that time, importance than a class. So if both are applied to the same element and have conflicting styles, the styles of the ID will be applied. Here's an example of how you could take your element with the ID attribute of cat photo element and give it a background color of green, your style element. So cat photo element, boom, background color green. Note that inside your style element, you will always reference classes by putting a dot in front of their names. You will always reference IDs by putting a pound sign in front of their names. That's what I was talking about before. So now we got there. Try giving your form, which now has an ID attribute of cat photo form, a green background. So remember, what was the ID that we had? Cat photo form. See how they moved it? Before it was in front and they moved it. So like I said before, you could put it wherever. So we'll take this cat photo form. Out here, put the pound in front of it. That's how you set ID attributes in CSS. Put that there. And then background color green. Boom. Run the test. Good to go. All right. Adjust the padding of an element. This is going to be the last one, and then I'll finish it up in the second section because today I'm kind of tired, but I'm going to do this last one. I said I was going to go an hour, but I'm going to cut it a little short. All right, so now let's put our cat photo app away for a little while and learn more about styling HTML. You may have already noticed this, but all HTML elements are essentially little rectangles. 3 important properties control the space that surrounds each HTML element: padding, border, and margin. So you see that right here. Here's padding, padding, and then margin. An element's padding controls the amount of space between the element's content and its border. So you see right there. So this one has more padding than this one. When you increase, or here we can see that the blue box and the red box are nested within the yellow box. Note that the red box has more padding than the blue box. When you increase the blue box's padding, it will increase the distance padding between the text and the border around it. Change the padding of your blue box to match that of your red box. So the blue, let's see, here's a blue box, the padding is 20. So change the padding of the blue box. So we'll just make that 20. Boom, it's the same. You see it, run the tests, and we're good to go. But hey, y'all, I'm getting tired right now. I wanted to go 10 more minutes, but I can't do it. I'm not going to keep going if I can't give you my best, but I am going to do a part 2 of this. So let me know in the comments what you think. The energy's good, what could be improved and all that. I appreciate y'all. I know I got my cabinets all open in the back right there. I'm about to chow down on some food I made, and I will be back for part 2. Peace, y'all.